Oh, grow like me dreaming. To New Zealand. Oh, grow like me dreaming. Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're all having a super fantastic, sparkling, winning Wednesday. Yes, it's that day of the week where we celebrate our wins for the week. So what are your wins for this week? My biggest win this week is, I've got 2 wins this week, 3 wins. I got 2 new clients for the genealogy, and I got a big project finished. Yes. So I'm kind of on a little bit of a high this week. So it means that my week is going to be moving forward at a rapid rate. Well, it's been a very flowy week this week. So I kind of enjoyed that. But that winning mindset is like, yes, now I can go do that again. Or what else can I do to get me that feeling, that high that you get when you win? So that's what I'm concentrating on, is using that to propel me forward into other projects that I am doing and everything else. And in a few minutes, I have a call with my accountability coach, which is going to be awesome because I get to report to her all these wins for this week and set my goals for next week. So this is what I love about Winning Wednesday, is I get to celebrate my wins with you guys. I get to celebrate my wins with my accountability coach, and I get to set my goals for the following week. So what are your wins for the week? Please let us know in the comments below so we can celebrate with you, because it's always good to celebrate with others. Now, your Tell Your Story, a question of the day. What arts and crafts did you enjoy as a child? And do you still continue those arts and crafts as an adult, or have you found other arts and crafts to enjoy? Or do you not do arts and crafts at all? Now, arts and crafts, I sort of thought, what people think is, painting, drawing, clay, working with clay, pottery, knitting, crochet, scrapbooking, woodworking. What other ones were there? I'm even going to throw cooking in there, because cooking can be a craft. It is a craft, but it's any modality that you use to create something with your hands, be it quilting, sewing, knitting, crochet, painting, tile. You remember those little tile impressions you used to do as a kid, where they'd give you the tile and you had to, and you would sketch out a drawing, and then we had to, excuse me, we had to sketch out the drawing, and then we had to use ink to transfer that drawing from the piece of paper onto, because we then had to put the carbon paper, this is dating me, had to put the carbon paper across the tile that we were going to print to use for the printing press, and then we had to put our drawing over top of the carbon paper, and then we had to redraw our drawing so that the carbon paper would put the outline onto the tile, and then we got those little chisel things with the little V shapes on them, and then we would start, and it was like a rubber mat, and it was a hard rubber, and then you would start like carving out the drawings. And then when they were all carved out and everything and all cleaned up, then you would roll the ink over it, and then you put the piece of paper on top, and you would roll the top of the piece of paper to transfer that image onto a piece of paper. Who can remember doing that as a kid? I used to love doing that in school. Haven't done it since, and I was like, I really enjoyed that. Leatherwork was another one that we got to do. And I was very fortunate in the classes that we had. When I was in middle school, we spent 6 months of the year in the class would get split into 2. The first, and one class would be doing cooking and sewing for the first 6 months of the year. Then the second 6 months of the year, you're doing woodwork. And I used to love it. I loved being in the cooking and the sewing environment. I loved the woodwork side of things. Turns out I have both in my family. Turns out that my grandmother was very good with woodwork, and my dad, my mum and dad have a table, a nest of tables like that. She made a big round table. Underneath that were little tables that she could pull out to use as end tables when needed, when she had guests at her place. And she made that, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And my dad's fixed it and started splitting, so he managed to convert it into like a half table, and they use little end tables. And there's a couple of end tables still sit under that, another couple of end tables in their living room as end tables where they should be. But and I learned that she loved to do woodwork in that. My dad and my uncle both picked up on that woodworking thing, and my dad actually had a lathe for many years, and he used to turn out the most beautiful woodwork on that. And even one time when I was over there with Brad, he took Brad down into the workshop there, and I went down to get a picture of them doing that, and I got told I had to get out. And so like, oh, okay. but was down to Dad's tutelage, and Dad said Brad had a really good eye for this. He was just concerned about Brad getting so close because he had to have the glasses on and all of that. And Brad would say, well, it's time for new glasses anyway. So that kind of spurred him to go get new glasses. And Brad had actually signed up for woodworking classes to work on a lathe on his way home. So on Wednesday nights, he had signed up for these classes that were on Wednesday nights. And on his way home from work, it happened to be on the way home. So he would leave work, stop there to do the woodworking class, and then he'd be able to come home. That was the plan. And under that, he made this little mini goblet and this little bowl. And my dad said that Brad had a talent for it. So Brad, when we got back from New Zealand that time, Brad was sort of like umming and ahhing. I said, well, you're going to do something. So he looked at the continuing education classes and he found this one that was on a Wednesday night and he could do it on the way home. And the class started in February of 2008. 2 weeks before that class was due to start was when Brad was diagnosed with cancer. So he never got to partake in the classes because not knowing what was going to be happening and everything, if he'd be able to even cope with whatever treatments were going to be coming or anything like that, he had to cancel the class. So he never did get to take his woodworking class. But that was one thing that my dad enjoyed for many, many years. He has since, I don't know what he did with his lathe, but I know he doesn't do the wood lathe anymore, and he's actually he's either donated or sold it or something. It's no longer in his possession. I can't remember where he sent it to or who got it. I don't remember. But it's gone to a good place wherever it is. I remember that when my mum told me where it had gone, I was sort of like, oh, that's good because it'll get a lot of good use. All the tools that went with it and the lathe itself and everything else. And plus Dad had a whole bunch of wood still sitting in the garage that all went with the lathe as well. But yeah, he used to do some great woodworking stuff. So I kind of had that woodworking thing. And I enjoyed the woodworking class when I did it. I just never really followed up with it. But my parents still have, now remember, I'm 54 years old. My parents still have the little stool that I made when I was 11. Think about that. There's a little stool out there that I made when I was 11, and my parents still have it to this day. And that thing has been through a lot. And it was never varnished. We made the top, we made the bits that go around the top, made the legs, so slightly angled. It was a good solid wooden footstool. Well, obviously it is a good step stool because it's been around all these years. And I never finished it because I did the actual creating of it, but I never went back and cleared up, filled in the gaps that were there. And then I never varnished it or polished it or anything afterwards. And so, what are we at? 11 minus 50, so 43 years later, that stool's still going. They still have my little stool that I made, so I'm quite proud of that. It's a little thing I'm proud of. But in the school that was part of our curriculum, was to spend 6 months in the sewing and cooking class and 6 months in the woodwork shop. And then we also had art classes as well. And we did a variety of art. There was the drawing, there was clay work, where we actually made stuff with clay and it was fired in the kiln. In fact, I'm not sure if I still have it or no, I do have it. I brought it home with me one time. I was making this thing with these rolls of clay and putting them around, and it just turned out, and put this melted glass in the bottom and glazed it and everything else. And it used to be my dessert bowl. It's the ugliest looking piece of pottery ever, but I was so proud of that. I thought it turned out really well, and I still have it. It's currently in a box in storage, but I still have it to this day. I remember in kindergarten years ago, so this is going back at least 50 years ago, maybe 51, we had these mason jars, and we had this plaster stuff, and we got to choose the color that we wanted, and I wanted black, and they told me no. So I chose this red, but it actually turned out to be like a coral pink color. And you smeared it, and we smeared it all on the jar. And this is in kindergarten. We smeared it all on the jar, and then we put shells into it. Made these vases, and I still have that vase that I made in kindergarten. Some of the shells have broken off over time, but that jar is still strong. The plaster on it is still strong. The plaster's never chipped. Just some of the shells have been broken over the years, but I still have it. So there's been lots of crafts and stuff. And art class was a lot of different crafts, a lot of different mediums that we got to do. And we just had a lot of fun with it. It was awesome. I loved my art class when I was at middle school, because we just had so much fun. You never knew what you were going to do. There'd be like in 1 week you would do this project, the next week you'd be working on a different project. But we used to do so much cool, fun stuff, and it gave you a very broad look at the different types of mediums available in arts and crafts. And you got to do so much and experience so much. Leather work was another one I enjoyed too, getting those pieces of leather and using all the leather stamps on them. They would cut out that, you would tell them what shape you want it, they would cut it out for you. They would actually have pre-cut things to make like belts or handbags or little pouches, that sort of stuff. And you got to put the holes in around the edges so you could sew it together with the leather cords. They had all the stamps there so we could do our own designs on it and everything else. We had a great time in those art classes that we did in middle school. I just loved them. What do I still do these days? I still do my knitting and crocheting, most of it. I have a ton of yarn, and most of it I actually use to crochet blankets and hats. And the hats I crochet are typically hats for premium babies, and they get sent off to different places. They get sent off to this one place, then distributes it to the hospitals around the country, so where they need the little preemie hats. And then the blankets, I make them up, and they sit and wait, and then and this is kind of how it works. And some people might go, oh, that sounds really weird, but I have no idea who's going to end up with these blankets. I don't just go drop them off somewhere. No, these blankets are specially made for a specific person in mind. I have no idea who that person is until I meet them, and I get the strong urge that I need to give them a particular blanket that may be in my stack. And like I was just met a couple at one of the campgrounds I stayed at one time, and I was going back up to the top to park my RV, and she was one of my neighbors, and so I said, oh, hop in and I'll give you a ride up there so you don't have to walk up the hill. And so we rode up the hill, and as I'm driving up the hill, all I could hear in my head was, give them the blanket, give them the blanket. And there was a picture of that blanket in my head, and then there was also a picture of the hat that I had made too, and I made this big hat, and I was like, who the heck's going to wear this hat? To me it was like too large. And when I got there, as Janet was getting out of the thing, I said, hang on, I have something for you. I said, this is for Wayne, and gave her the hat. And she said, oh, that's really cool. And I said, and here's a blanket to go with it. And she's like, what? And I said, look, I have the strong urge that I have to give you these. I said, I don't know where the urge comes from, but here it is. And it was, it came out. So I get these urges to give people certain blankets that I have made. And then other things I do, I still do my drawings, I do my colorings. I kind of dibble dabble and doodle, and but there's some things that I think of at times, oh, it'd really be good to go back and do that, like macrame. I loved doing that. My grandfather did a lot of macrame. He made macrame necklaces, he made his macrame hangers, and I sort of thought, that's really cool, and I learned how to do that. That was one of the things we learned in arts and crafts. And so when I could see the work that he had done, I thought, wow, my macrame is nowhere near as good as his was. And then I had a great grandfather who did cross stitch, and I have this piece. It's a big piece that he embroidered. It's this big canvas piece that he embroidered of a knight on a horse. It's currently in storage at the moment because I'm not sure where I can't have it in the RV because I don't know where I'm going to hang it for a start, because it needs to be framed. But it's just this gorgeous piece that my great grandfather made. You never thought of men doing cross stitching, huh? Well, my great grandfather did, and it's an amazing piece. So I have a lot of history of crafts and stuff being done in my family. And you would think, my grandmother did woodwork. Some people would have thought, back in the in the early 1900s and stuff, the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s and things, that woman doing woodwork, that kind of sounded a little strange. It was usually the men that did the woodwork, but no, my grandmother did. And my great grandfather was the one that did the cross stitching. And my grandfather was the one that did the macrame. So go figure. Anybody can do anything that they want. I see men knitting all the time, and I think, good on them. And I've seen men crochet and knit more than I have seen women doing it lately. So, but it's good for keeping the wrists and the fingers nimble. Anyway, I'm out of here. Talked for too long. I gotta go get ready for my accountability call. So go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling rest of your Winning Wednesday. Let us know what your wins were for this week, and we'll be back tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific to talk about our wins for the day. Hey, konera. Oh, make it a super fantastic, sparkling day too.